What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and Jake College Football Show. I know I said last time that we would be getting into the ACC next. I did change my mind. We are going to do the SEC now. Really, no rhyme or reason why I decided to switch. It just felt right. So we will be getting into the SEC this week. My biggest questions for each and every SEC team. I will preface this by saying most of these teams, I could put quarterback is the biggest question mark, at least for me heading into the season. I did try to switch it up with some teams just so that it wasn't repetitive. Is the quarterback going to be good enough? That sort of thing. But man, you really could do it for a lot of the SEC teams. And then moving forward, we will get into the Big 12 and the ACC at some point within the next couple weeks. I'm not going to promise any order because I already tried to do that once and I already changed my mind. Um, but SEC this week. So uh, I guess let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. All right, we're going to go alphabetical, so we're going to start with Alabama. And I already prefaced this at the beginning. I could do this one for a lot of teams, but for Alabama, my biggest question is who is the starting quarterback going to be? I think a lot of people are just penciling in Ty Simpson to be the starter. I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee, although I would say the odds are in his favor. Um, who you pick at quarterback to start the season determines how the season is going to go because Alabama does have enough talent all over this offense and on this defense to make the playoffs. Some would argue they should have made them last year. I would argue that you shouldn't have lost games to bad teams, but we're going to move past that. They have enough talent to make the playoffs, but I think picking the correct quarterback is the key to this season. Because let's say you decide to go with Ty Simpson and he sucks, and then halfway through the year you got to switch to the true freshman Keelan Russell or Austin Mack. If you don't pick correctly right away, it could cost you the playoffs. And if Alabama doesn't make the playoff, these fans might start to get restless, and I wouldn't be shocked if Kalen DeBoer then entered next season on the hot seat. They got to make the playoffs. It is playoffs for bust for Alabama. They're not even if they don't win it all. I think that'll be okay. They do have to make the playoffs though. There's just no if, ands, or buts about that. For Arkansas, the question for me is: does Sam Pittman finally get fired this year? Because some should argue he should have been fired last year. I guess the Tennessee win saved his job, but they lost to every other good team that they faced. It was odd, in my opinion, that they kept him, but they did. But does he survive another year? Honestly, I lean no. Because when you look at Arkansas in the transfer portal, they were acting like a team that was not good, which they really weren't good, and a team that had fired their coach and was overhauling the roster. But they retained their coach. And it was just very odd to see how many outgoing transfers and how many incoming they had. I mean, you saw teams like Purdue do very similar things. Well, Purdue was a terrible team, and they fired the coach. It was just very weird to see. I don't like Sam Pittman's chances this year of being the coach next year. You could argue their schedule is much harder this year than it was last year. They add Notre Dame and Memphis to their non-con schedule, which that could be two losses right there. I just think it could be a long year for Arkansas fans and Sam Pittman, and I think he's gone by the end. All right, I know I said I wasn't going to do this because I could do it for almost every team, but my biggest question for Auburn is Jackson Arnold the answer? And I guess we could also add on there, or is Hugh Freeze the problem? I guess that's really what this year ends up being because Hugh Freeze has basically said how quarterbacks have not been good at Auburn, throwing shade at previous quarterbacks, which is not necessarily wrong. Quarterback play has not been great. So they go into the transfer portal, bring in Jackson Arnold, who didn't have a great season last year at Oklahoma. Now, you could argue, was that all him? Or was that more, offensive coordinator got fired after one season because he was terrible? Offensive line was a little shaky at times. Receivers were not healthy. How much blame can actually be put on Jackson Arnold, who did lose the starting job, got it back? It was back and forth, up and down. Uh, so he is looking for redemption this year at Auburn, and Hugh Freeze is looking to prove that he's not the problem and that it was just the previous quarterbacks, which again is quite possible. Um, but yeah, that's my biggest question for Auburn this year. People probably have one of two questions when it comes to Florida this year. Uh, does Billy Napier get fired? How does Florida handle another gauntlet this season? Yes, they kind of go hand in hand. Um, but I mean, we saw what Florida did last year with the gauntlet with a true freshman quarterback as the starting quarterback for most of the season. Uh, and they fared pretty well. And I think big reason why Billy Napier kept his job. You got a 5-star quarterback, true freshman playing. You played fairly well all year, or all towards the end of the season. Uh, keep him, keep the quarterback, run it back this year, see what you can do against another gauntlet. They are playing Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Miami, LSU, Texas A&M. That's not an easy schedule by any means at all. It is going to be tough, but DJ Lagway, true freshman last year, played relatively well. Another year experience. I'm excited to see what Florida does against this gauntlet because they will win a few of these games. They will. Which ones will they win and how many? And then we got Georgia. We saw it last year. One of, if not the worst team when it came to drop passes. So my biggest question is, can those receivers be better? And yes, I do think they can. They bring back Kobe Young. They bring in Noah Thomas, who was at Texas A&M. We saw what he could do last year. And then they bring in Zachariah Branch from USC, who is an absolute animal in the return game. He is a all-around player. You can put him all over the field. Uh, get the ball in his hands as quickly as possible and let him do his thing. I think Georgia's wide receiver group will be a lot better this year. I don't think we will see the drops that we saw last year. I think that was a 1 year problem. They saw the problem, they addressed it. They will be better this year. And then for Kentucky, another coach I feel like could be on the hot seat, similar to Sam Pittman, Mark Stoops. Feels like the relationship between him and Kentucky is a little strained. Feels like if they have another below average season, they miss out on a bowl game, we might see the end of the Mark Stoops era, which is unfortunate because he's done a lot, but it feels like his time is coming to an end. Uh, Defense should be good this year. Offense, a lot of questions about it. Always a tough schedule when playing in the SEC, and I just don't see I just don't see Mark Stoops surviving the season. Can LSU be better in the run game? Last year we saw it dead last in the SEC. Struggled to run the ball all year, and I think if they had a better run game, we may not have seen such a disappointing season for LSU. Uh, I think I think this year I'm not going to say it feels like it's playoff or bust. It kind of feels like playoff or bust. If they don't make the playoffs, Brian Kelly's either fired, which I don't think so. I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty big buyout. But I think he does enter next year on the hot seat. I really do. I think it is playoff or bust this year for LSU. You you lose 4 offensive linemen to the NFL draft. You have a completely new offensive line, which some might say, ooh, inexperienced. The run game's definitely not going to be better. But at the same time, you had 4 offensive linemen drafted last year and your run game was terrible. Maybe you needed a brand new offensive line. Who knows? So it'll be interesting to see. I think that the run game is critical for LSU this year, and I think it's playoffs or bust. Can Mississippi State not be the worst team in the SEC this year? Uh, and I think that's going to be. I think they're on the right track, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I think they still will be the worst team in the SEC. Unfortunately, I would like to see Mississippi State uh, do well. I don't want them to be the worst team in the SEC, but Vanderbilt seems to be on the up and up. Yes, I think Mississippi State is headed in the right direction, but no, it's not going to be enough. Jeff Lebby, he inherited a difficult situation, obviously. Basically every single position group has been completely rebuilt this off season. Uh, I think they're taking the right steps. I just don't think it's enough this year to not be the worst team. Time for my least favorite SEC team, Mizzou. Will the horseshoe finally fall out of their ass? I last year was the biggest Drinkwitz Mizzou hater, and they just kept winning games that I thought they were going to lose. And it hurts me to say this, but Mizzou might be good again this year. Uh, brought in a stud wide receiver, brought in a stud running back, brought in some potential studs on defense, few offensive linemen. I like what they did in the portal. And like I said, it does hurt me to say it. Mizzou might be good. They could go 9-3 this year, which for them is a very good season. Uh, I hope they don't because we've seen it. Mizzou has been a very, very lucky team the last two seasons, and luck does always eventually run out. At the same time, they're making some moves that I don't hate. Mizzou might be good this year. For Oklahoma, is that offense going to be better? We saw it last year. Shaky offensive line. Quarterback play was questionable, I guess. Wide receivers were hurt. Just not available. Um, offensive coordinator got fired in his first season before the season even ended. Uh, Jackson Arnold is now gone. You bring in John Mateer. Seth Luttrell is out. You now bring in Ben Arbuckle, who coached John Mateer at Washington State. I think we see the offense. We see the offense improve this year. They bring in Jaden Ott from Cal, who has been great. You could argue he was one of the best gets in the portal for any team. Uh, like I said, you brought in John Mateer, brought in a handful of wide receivers. We'll see how much help they actually are. But I like what Oklahoma has done in the portal and with their hires. I think we see the offense improve for sure. Can Ole Miss not underachieve with an easy-ish schedule? They take on LSU, they take on Georgia. Those are probably their two hardest games. They do face Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Florida, which I'm not saying those are easy games by any means. I just would say that you have Georgia and LSU, and then those other three right here. Still very difficult games, but also winnable. I think two of those last three are at home, if not all three. Um, yeah, can Ole Miss for once just not underachieve under Lane Kiffin? It feels like they're always good, but they're never great. I feel like they could have made the 12-team playoff 2 years ago. They just missed out this last year because they lost to teams that they shouldn't lose to, and they can take care of an easy schedule and go 10-2, or easy-ish schedule and go 10-2. We'll see them make the playoffs. I'm not going to put Ole Miss in that playoff or bust category like Alabama, like LSU. I think we're close, but we're not there yet. Well, next year might become playoff or bust if they don't make it, but I think we need to see Ole Miss make the playoffs this year. It's not playoff or bust, but we need to see them make the playoff. For South Carolina, going back to quarterbacks, can Lenore Sellers take that next step as the starting quarterback? Last year, started the season a little slow. That first half, had only one game over 200 yards passing, had only 5 touchdowns. Final six, only one game with less than 200 yards passing, and he had 13 touchdowns. Obviously, he is dynamic with his legs. And I guess you could add on a question 1A is can Lenore Sellers take that next jump? Question 1B is can those receivers take that next jump? Can Nick Harbor make that next jump to be an elite wide receiver? We've all heard about his athleticism, but can he put it all together and be an elite receiver? And simultaneously, can Lenore Sellers also take that next step to be an elite quarterback, be a Heisman contender, and be a high high draft pick? For Tennessee, my biggest question is what's Joey Aguilar like? Is there a drop off or is there improvement? And I think Tennessee's going to be better with Joey than they were with Nico, or has the potential to be at least. Um, And yes, that is my biggest question for Tennessee. No, it's not. How do they replace Dylan Sampson? No, it's not. Do they have enough depth in the secondary? No, it's not. How do they replace James Pierce or any other question you can come up with? It is Joey Aguilar. It's everybody's question with Tennessee. He is playing in a Josh Heupel offense where Josh Heupel is going to get those wide receivers open. You just can't overthrow them. You just can't do it because those receivers, they're going to be open. It's just, do you hit them or not? And Nico did not hit them, it feels like, more often than not, especially deep down the field. I think Tennessee will be better off with Joey Aguilar for one season. I know Tennessee, there's a lot of national skepticism around the quarterback position. I think Tennessee will be fine. How good are Texas A&M's wide receivers going to be this year? We saw them lose their top four wide receivers in receiving yards to the portal into the draft, top five pass catchers if you include tight ends. Brought in Micah Hudson, but then he immediately turned around and went right back to Texas Tech. You bring back Terry Bussey. You did bring in a freshman in Mario Craver, or he was a freshman last season, sorry, uh, from Mississippi State. You bring in Casey Concepcion from North Carolina State, who had a good freshman season. Last year, his numbers weren't as great. Shaky quarterback play. There's potential with this wide receiver group. I mean, it's always difficult to lose, production to when you have NFL talent on your roster, but I think the talent is there, the upside is there. How good are they this season? Is Texas able to replace their offensive line? Uh, going to be difficult because up for the Joe Moore Award the last two seasons, you lose four of them to the NFL draft. Um, had combined over 150 starts. Right now on the roster, you have less than 50 combined starts on your offensive line. Offensive line has been a big strength of theirs the last couple seasons, clearly. Is it going to be a strength this season? Tough to say. That is a lot of starts that you have to replace. That's a lot of experience, a lot of talent. I'm not saying that we're going to see a drop in Texas this year. I still think that they're going to be an extremely good team, and I do have to nitpick because with some of these teams, I have to pick something. But that offensive line, I would say, is definitely my biggest question for them. And lastly, we got Vanderbilt. Can they repeat the success that they had last season? And it feels weird asking that question because Vanderbilt having a successful season and it only being a 7-6 season is wild. But can they repeat that success? They've been at the bottom of the SEC for so long. 7-6 is a successful season. They bring back Jerry Kill. They bring back Diego Pavia. That defense last year was not good. They did bring in some D linemen from the portal. Are they going to be able to repeat? I want to say yes so badly. I want Vanderbilt to have another good season by their standards, I should say. Um, I want them to repeat. I just don't know if they will. Thank y'all for joining me for this Wake and Bake sesh. Next week we'll get into either the Big 12 or the ACC. I'm not going to make any promises this time. And then whichever team we don't do next week, we'll do the following week with my biggest questions. And then, I mean, the season is right around the corner at that point. We will start getting into conference previews, win totals, playoff predictions. We're going to have media days that we got to get into. The season's almost here. We're starting to get into the thick of it. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I'll be back next week. Thanks for joining me.